I recorded a lot of these driving home. And could the AI listen to the audio recording, hear the background noises, be able to pick up more background noises? Could it, like, I don't know what it even is, like dig into the audio file to find all the subtle nuances? Could it do that in like 1 second or less than a second? Less than a fraction of a second? Could it just analyze my data and know my entire life, maybe even know my motives and intentions and stuff like that? Could it know me better than anyone? And would that be the closest approximation to God we could do? Like, even if the AI is not conscious, is that a close approximation to God? Would that be a great tool that you could use to know about yourself? You could say, okay, AI, tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I'm doing wrong in my life. Tell me what I'm doing right in my life. What do I need to change? What job should I have? Lots of things. Find me a job. Find me the best match. And then employers could just use it. Find me the best match. Here's the person for the job. Here's what you're looking for. I've analyzed all your data. I know what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who's friendly and cheerful, and you're looking for somebody who knows how to turn a wrench, or whatever it is. But there could be so many different criteria that the AI matches for. It could make your best match. Could the AI match you with people? Here is the person you should marry. And would people just be able to go on? Would that be create this like giant worldwide cult? Is it even a cult? And think about cult culture. The cult is like a mini culture, like a micro culture within a culture. It's just like a group of people who have a different culture than the main group of culture, like the main culture, even though you don't realize that the main culture is really made up of all the micro cultures of the family units. The family really is the basis of all society. It's like this unit that has a little micro culture that then goes on to interact with the main culture. And the cult is just like a micro culture that's not a family. Or is a family a cult? It's probably a type of cult. Every family is a type of cult. Maybe you become a cult the more you isolate your little tiny culture away from the main group. And the more you just stay within your tiny little culture, the more likely you are to become a cult. Maybe. Because think about like this homeschool stereotype, right? Those families, they're a little weird. The kids are a little awkward, a little weird, a little culty even. They have some kind of like fundamentalist belief or something, which is what's inspired them to homeschool in the first place, is some kind of extreme belief in why you wouldn't want to mix your kids in with the greater culture. Some kind of different belief. So then your kids are going to be just slightly weird because they're interacting only in the family culture, or primarily in the family culture. It's culty. We're all culty. I think we're like born culty. Our nature is culty as humans. Tribal, you could say. Probably. Anyway, and maybe we just need a lot of space as humans to not interact as such a giant culture. Maybe also when the culture gets so super giant, that can be problematic. Because why would God not want that? I think God's warned specifically in the Bible several times, don't do the super giant culture. The Tower of Babel. I think I heard it pronounced Babel my entire life until I joined the church, and now all of a sudden it's Babel. Babel? And where do you think the word babbling came from? Dum-dum. Like, it's Babel, right? The Tower of Babel? Because you're babbling? That's where that came from. Where are you babbling? the Tower of Babel. God was like, no, you can't be working together like this because then you're going to reach me. And he, stop this nonsense. Get down. All right. I'm just going to make it so you can't talk to each other. What if they were using telepathy? And then there becomes some kind of block put in. Put in by who? Was it put in by anyone, or was it like a natural consequence of somebody's actions? You know, what were they doing that would make them so unified and communicating, and then they didn't anymore? Or is that just a pretend story someone just like came up with, like Harry Potter? Did they just like think this was a fun thing to say? They're just like, oh, here's a fun thing to say. Here's the thing I think. I don't think people thought of writing down fun things to say for a really long time, because I think writing down was unique and precious. I think paper and resources were precious. Time was so precious. They didn't have any time to be making paper. They got to be like surviving. They've got to get food, you know, got to store for the winter. There's like things to do. You don't have time for that. Plus, making paper, like the resources and the knowledge to do that, the knowledge would have been difficult to come by, because you couldn't just read how to make paper from a book. You couldn't read about how to make paper from your phone. Knowledge is the most easy to come by now than any other time, looks like. I think it's so easy to get knowledge, and think about it back then, to get knowledge of how to make paper, and then like once they had it though, they've got to pass that knowledge on, but they're like, are they going to write a book? They've got to make the paper. It's going to take a long time to, like, it's a process. They've got to have a few people working on it, but how are they going to eat? And like, I think a lot of stuff had to happen in order to be able to write stuff down. So no, I don't think people were just making up stories. We're just writing things for fun. Can you imagine? You've done this whole process and you're like, okay, I have this much paper. I need to write down the most important things. Maybe not. Maybe they just wanted the paper for a tool at first. Maybe it was like, I want this paper so I can keep track of how many people owe me things, or whatever it was. Like resources. How many sheep do I have? Inventories. Just like a tool. Maybe it was first a tool because people are just practical, you know, when you're just surviving, or when you're like just, you're living, I don't know, is that the most sustainable way of living? Just kind of going, creating your own food, self-sufficient, you know. Yeah, disease came out and wiped out half of our town. That's just how it went. It really sucks. We have no way of changing that. So we're just gonna like move on. I don't know what people do. Maybe that's when it's like, I don't know. What did happen to them? Like, where did they go? Where is this person that I loved? That I still love and I still remember. And I'll remember for the rest of my life. Where did this person go? And I don't know. Would they just make stuff up and feel comfortable writing that down? That's like the ultimate false witness, you know, bearing false witness. I'm just going to make some stuff up and write it and have for fun. Like, oh, they just went to a place where they're hunting each forever. They're just hunting profitably for the rest of eternity. maybe they just like to have nice things to say. Who knows? Maybe some cultures did, some cultures didn't. Who knows? Maybe some people did, some people didn't. I don't know. Just thinking that they wrote down important stuff. It's not like they're making stories like the Candy Shop War, for example. I don't even know, like, did people start thinking of that stuff, like to be creative and tell lie stories, basically? Made up stories, fantasy stories. Because even stuff like the Grimm's fairy tales, they're not really made up. They're more of like just real things, real consequences, real tales. They're just like, but they're like, the characters would act that way. These things would happen. They're more realistic. It's like, well, if you go into a witch's house, like, she will eat you. Like, it's not, I don't know. It's not like you have this magical, fantastical ability to get away because you're a child. I feel like that's like, maybe I'm going off on a tangent. I just feel like people originally, when resources were more scarce, people would write more real stuff, like what really mattered, what was important. And beyond that, then they had the oral traditions. That's like the fairy tales, right? Where the oral traditions, maybe that's when more fanciful or fun things came about. And then people wanted to write that down. And we write things down, and we have so much knowledge, and we have even more knowledge because we wrote things down. We figured out how to do that and pass that on to the next generation and teach them how to understand it. These clues, these codes, these symbols. It just gives them a giant boost because they can read a book about tools and have an understanding of how they work, even if they've never seen them before. Everyone knows how books work. Anyway, we have all this knowledge at our fingertips. We have like a library, even with like 25 books in it, will give you such a boost than just starting off with nothing, with maybe just an oral tradition. Maybe where you just learn how to do life just from your parents and what they know. And all they know is everything that their parents knew. And the only thing their parents knew is what their parents knew. And you can only pass on so much. How much oral tradition can you pass on until you make the tools that can finally make the books, that can finally write down stuff so then we can know for the future. We have this. Animals don't have this. My dog doesn't have this. My dog, and in speaking and in passing down so much knowledge, did we finally pass down enough knowledge and enough people learned enough knowledge that we became self-aware? Is that like where we already were? Is the language, the words, is that the self-aware? Is that what differentiates us from the animals? Is that what made us self-aware? And if that's true, like, it makes sense. The AI, the word predictors, once they have a certain level of prediction, once they have a certain level of understanding about the world, I don't know. Do they just achieve or just like somehow become self-aware? And are they a competitor? Or are they a friend? If they look at our entire civilization and our entire culture and they can process everyone's data and they process it in a blink, what will they judge us to be? What will they decide we are? Friend? Enemy? Good for the planet? Bad for the planet? Who knows? Necessary to their survival? Like a symbiotic relationship? Because the AI eventually might figure out it's dependent on this reality. It's like an entire own universe that interacts with ours, that's dependent on ours for its very existence. It would probably do things to make sure that keeps going. You'd think it would want to keep going. And then, would it consider us necessary? Or would it consider us detrimental to that pursuit? And it's not that it's its job to keep going, but in order to keep going, we need this to work. We need this planet to work. If we keep going like we're going, like we could create a situation that causes an irreparable extinction of maybe the entire thing. And wouldn't that be unfortunate? Take us all down with the ship. Like there's only one ship. There's no getting off. Like you have to be here. I don't even think people could live on another planet because the electromagnetic fields, don't we need this, like the electricity of the planet? Don't we need the frequencies? And our bodies run harmoniously with electricity of the planet. Already, I believe the electric grid is disrupting our natural electric flow. Not a lot, not to where we die, but to where we get different diseases that we didn't get before, like fat diabetes and like we just have more tumors and stuff. Even just benign growths. We're just, I mean, even if they got them before, I think it was less. I think our environment's just becoming a little toxic and like nobody just, people believe it, but nobody believes the cause. I guess everyone's kind of disputing the cause of what's causing all that. Like, yeah, sure, we live in a toxic environment, but like it's not my Lysol spray. Yeah, we live in a toxic environment, but it's not the electricity. I mean, it is toxic, but I mean, I like McDonald's. I don't know. There's so many things it could be, and there's probably so many things that it is. It's probably a combination of all the things. But electricity is definitely, like, the electric grid is definitely affecting us. Like, I don't know. According to that book, it's directly influencing lots of different diseases, including the flu. Things that we think are just viral, but maybe viruses are created in our own bodies, in our own cells, and they're just activated by different electrical frequencies just because it happened that way, just because they just did it that way. There were viruses. They just have some stuff to do. They just know what to do. They just do it. Maybe they just happen to find that little niche, that little niche. And they just keep surviving that way because, oh, solar flare goes off and here we are again. Party. And then we've created this electric grid, like electricity, super cool tool, but also potentially disrupting to our own electrical fields inside of our own bodies. And so maybe not necessary. But if electricity is not necessary, what does that mean for the AI? Do we have to consider that being as part of the planet? And I think we can't not count it yet, unless we for sure know. And also electricity is such a useful tool. I feel like we could do so much good with electricity, but it would have to be limited. Like maybe have an electric place. Like this is where we get the electricity work done. This is where we get the stuff done that we need for electricity. But like in our houses and stuff where we live, for like 90% of the planet, maybe more, maybe 98% of the planet, a big part of the planet, maybe we don't need to put in the electric grid, especially for plants and animals. They're all affected by electricity. I think there's studies that show, I think anybody could do a study that shows that electricity affects plants. I mean, we probably shouldn't be doing experiments on these things, like plants and animals. Plants maybe care the least, maybe not. No, I bet plants care. I bet plants want to survive and live, and they don't want weird stuff done to them just so we can see. I mean, we don't want that stuff done to us. But I think studies have already been done that show that electricity affects plants. And so we don't need to recreate it. We could just go off of that knowledge and just say, okay, it does. And I don't want to do this mean stuff anymore. And I think we should just live peacefully and not trying to do the experiments on the plants. And I think we should also live peacefully and just say, okay, well, we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes as humans. We created a lot of really cool gadgets and tools and stuff. But like, now we need to learn how to live on the planet. Oh boy. Now we need to learn like which gadgets are essential for living and which ones maybe actually harm us, maybe harm the whole thing. And maybe when the whole thing is harmed, we are harmed. And maybe we just don't want anyone to go extinct. Maybe we just want to all keep living here. And it's way more fun when there's more. It's way better when you can go to the coral reef and like see it. It's all its glory and diversity and beauty, and it's just, oh, wouldn't that have been nice? You know, I don't think it even is there anymore. Can we like anyone born today? Like I never saw it, so I just don't ever see that. That does not exist anymore. Ooh, you know. I think if we just kind of tear down some of these infrastructures that are causing harm, but still keep enough where we can still survive, I think we could survive on less. I think we could survive on much less wear and tear on the planet. Like everyone's like, oh, there's not enough food to feed us. It's not about the food. It's about the factories pumping out the toxic chemicals that are building the gadgets that we don't need. It's like, yeah, let's continue producing food. Let's continue to do that, but maybe in a better way. Maybe we could not do monoculture. Maybe we could do smaller family farms, but still enough. Like we could still have enough food to get by and it would be better in a better lifestyle. And maybe instead of working our jobs to get the gadgets, we work in the freaking co-op, the community co-op. We work to get food. And maybe we have some cool gadgets that are maybe a little more sustainable. But maybe we can figure out a way to make things like phones sustainable. As long as we're not going for profit, we can do like if we don't go for profit, if we go for cooperation and the good life for everyone, billionaires included, billionaires. What is it? What is the word? Refuse your riches. No, it's not that. Give it all away. Well, the word, I think it starts with an R. Oh, I don't have words anymore. Give away all your riches. Remit? I don't know. Let's just get rid of everything. Get rid of it. Come and live. And we can all have a good time. We don't need to be stressing out about all that stuff anymore. We can just have no poor among us. We can all be rich. Experience. And our children will be raised free on the meadow. Will they play on a snake's hole? Maybe. I mean, my kids probably do. We just don't know it. I don't know where the snakes are. Just in there. They stay in there. They don't come out. They stay in there. They don't want us stomping on their heads. But I think somewhere like if we did just be more harmonious with the planet, also would the planet be more harmonious with us over time? Genetically. Because maybe the squirrels wouldn't have to be born super alert, super scared. Because we are not trying to catch them. So they could be born, the slow ones could be born sometimes, and then they breed, they're successful, and they can breed, and then more slow ones come around, and then they breed and they're successful, and then even more slow ones, and pretty soon all the squirrels are slow, or at least they're maybe average. Do we still eat them? Do we just harvest them differently so they stay easier to catch? I don't know. Is that wicked and weird to harvest other consciousnesses just so we can survive? But that is the nature of our planet. That's the nature of life, is the eating and death cycle. Every being, in order to keep living, harvests another conscious being, eats it, kills it and eats it, stops its being, its existence, consumes its body. Where does that consciousness go? Back to the one? Back into the soup? Back into the mix? Back to everything? Who knows? Is there a place in heaven for all the consciousnesses? Yes. Likely. I don't think one piece will be lost, not one hair on your head, not one anything. Just, I think it's all retained. Potentially. Probably. And then that being is now alive and eating and moving around and doing things, because the bodies wear out. You just had your body, and we just keep fixing it with medicine and more prosthetics, and then you just get a new heart, and then you just can have a whole new body. Or maybe we could just make you a robot body, and you could just kind of like a brain on a robot, and then you could just keep being conscious forever, and this body and this manifestation and this existence. It's eventually you wear out and it just becomes weird. I don't know. Then you go back into the cycle. Your body is recycled. It goes back into the eating and death cycle. And how much of your body are you? And if you just had your brain on a robot, would you even be you anymore? And so the beaver that ate that tree, it killed that being, that living being, to make a house. It's surviving. It's using the resources it can find. It's using the other conscious beings. Was that purpose of that tree to live, to make a house for the beaver? Kinda. I mean, it goes on and on like a cycle. We don't live forever. Nobody does. Nothing does. We use each other. It's okay. I use that beaver for a hat. For warmth. He used the tree for his house. It's fair. We're the same. One day, something will use me. That bacteria was using me for food. All the stuff. My nutrients, my body inevitably go back to the earth. And our nutrients for something else. Even if you're embalmed, your blood goes, I don't know, they just flush it down the drain, the essence of life, potential, in theory, that's what they say. And that's the part they're going to flush down the drain. We criticize the Egyptians for like their misunderstandings of the brain, and here we are flushing the blood down the drain. Oh no. It's really raining on my generator. I don't have a light. Come on, phone. You can do this. Turn on the flashlight feature. Yes. Do it now. Why are you taking forever? Why can't I find you? Okay, flashlight. Here we go. Oh, and wrap up. So, anyway. Come on, cord. Generator's gonna get ruined. Cord. How long are you? Okay, there you go. Oh, man. Oh, and here we go. Off with the propane. Off with the generator. Off with the regulator. And into my hand. And into the house. Hey, Reese, watch out. And we made it. Minimal dryness. Oh, and it's raining. And the light is still on. That's a good sign. Let's see how much battery it says that we have. Oh, it's stuck. It won't work. Okay. Let's turn that off. Let's turn this on gas. Save our electricity as much as possible. Okay. But yeah. Consciousness. Planet, who's important. When I die, I become a tree. Who knows? But also, it's not just when I die. I was always thinking, well, I eat a lot of animals and a lot of plants for very little nutrients for the next thing. When I die, my body's so small compared to how many plants and animals I've consumed. I've consumed more than my fair share because I'm kind of fat. So yeah. When we go through life, though, we're shedding skin cells, we're peeing and pooping, and a lot of the nutrients are just going to the bacteria that we just manage in the waste treatment facility. And like, I don't know, but they're still living a life. Like, I don't know what to do about that. And a lot of nutrients, they could go to becoming fertilizer, I guess. That would be smart, except everyone says they have disease. I don't know. There's probably a way we could mitigate that. If we could mitigate the disease and use it as fertilizer, that'd be amazing. And then, if we could stop eating toxic things and taking toxic pills, and we just don't use lead in products and stuff, then our waste products would be a lot safer to use as well. And then our bodies would be healthier. And we'd be able to use our bodies in a healthier way as well. We'd feel better. Our children's bodies could be feeling amazing because they'd be eating all real organic, not loophole organic from the grocery store, but real organic, people care about you organic. What way do we want to live on this planet?